everyone, and welcome to Wednesday Rewind, episode 8. Eight, Warren. It's crazy. We're already up to episode 8. Yep, Davis can count, which is excellent, very helpful. Today, we're starting a new, it's not really a series, this is kind of a little set of one-off sermons, but I hope you'll see that they do actually tie together. On Sunday night, Davis preached a sermon. He titled it, "It's Not About Me." And over the next few weeks, we're going to do some sermons that are going to kind of tie in a little bit along this sort of line. But Davis, I should welcome you guys first, actually.
Yeah, I was feeling depressed for a second. I was like, no one welcomed me, what am I doing?
You were worried that I had forgotten to welcome you.
Oh.
So everyone, I apologise. Obviously, down below on the bottom screen, you'll see Major Warren Elliott, who has been with us every Wednesday Rewind. He's a Wednesday Rewind veteran now. Davis, you've been with us before, but Davis Bode, our youth pastor at Morley Salvos, and also the preacher from Sunday night. So welcome, Warren and Davis.
I feel it now. I feel
Thank
the love.
Very good. I'm glad you feel welcomed. So Davis, you came to me probably a couple of months ago now, and you said you wanted to do a sermon titled "It's Not About Me," and you spoke to me about it and shared what you were thinking and all that kind of stuff. And I said yes, and I'm regretting it now. No, I'm just. It was excellent. No, really, really good. I really enjoyed what you spoke about on Sunday night, and hopefully we can unpack that a bit now. But I guess I wanted to start by asking you how you kind of came to that. Like, how did you get to there?
Well, it was probably the start. I reckon we just started Ephesians, and I was already thinking of what's next. I'm weird like that. I don't think in the now, I think later on. But it was a very personal thing, because we started Ephesians, we started all our lockdown stuff, and I was like, like this whole, I don't like this, I don't like not being able to see people, I'm not enjoying this Zoom stuff, I don't like, and it was just all this personal stuff of I, and it was really, all of a sudden, God just said, Davis, like, in a sense, you don't matter in this situation. Which is kind of hard to hear that from God when you think about, we're loved and stuff, but then to be told, hey, in this situation, like, you need to put yourself aside, you don't matter in this sense, and going, it's not about you, it's actually all about me and how we're doing that together. And so I was really confronted and going, oh, well, what does that look like when, like, I come to church not for myself, or I come and do these things and Tim plays the same song every week? Well, what does that look like in a sense for me, because it's about God?
Yeah.
And so I talked about it a bit in the message of some of the things, not just me. I was that rant, I guess you can call it, where like, oh, Tim's playing the same song and it's not an A and I can't sing this. And every now and then I'm like, oh, like, we're playing the same song and I don't like it and I can't sing it, it's in the wrong key. And then someone has said to me before, like, oh, your jeans are too tight, your shirt's too loose. And I'm like, how does that affect your spiritual growth right now? But it was this whole personal thing of, well, what does it look like if we just share that it's actually not about us when we come to a Sunday service? We're actually there to worship God. We're actually there to hear from Him. And we need to put ourselves aside. And we may have had the worst week, but it comes down to, in that moment, we're choosing to say, no, this moment on, we're praising God.
Yep.
Whether I've had a good time, a bad time, it's all about Him. It's got nothing to do with me. So that's kind of how I came about this whole idea of it's not about me, and a very confrontational conversation with God, which is always helpful, isn't it?
Wrestling with God.
It's great.
You on Sunday night, you said a line, something like this. I wrote down some notes as you were preaching, so forgive me, it's not word for word, but it was something along the lines of Sunday is a celebration of all God has done Monday to Saturday or something, or? Yeah,
so Sunday isn't church. Sunday's a celebration of all the church that's happened Monday through Saturday.
Yeah, that was really good. I really appreciated that sort of thought. I think sometimes we can get stuck in this mode of Sunday being church and not thinking of our lives as an act of worship to God and praising Him for what He's done throughout that Warren's just left us for a moment there.
Sorry, the sun's shining in a bit strangely in my window.
He agreed so much with what we said, he had to stand up.
There you go. Sorry about that.
He had to give a praise second. We'll let him have it.
Still listening.
Warren, it was interesting. Sunday night, Davis kind of hit a little bit on this this thing about not being self-focused in what we want on Sunday worship times, but about clearing our own agenda aside so that we can kind of let God do his thing and let God speak through that. And it wasn't all about Sunday worship, Davis's sermon, but it was interesting that it lined up kind of with what you spoke about on Sunday morning as well. You were speaking about unity in worship from Corinthians.
Which is all about saying it's not just about me. It's not similar to what Davis was saying. It's considering others and the impact of what we do on others and being impacted by others as well. So, it sort of came back to the same thing in the end. It's about focusing on God, focusing on Jesus and us being there for him and encouraging others and bringing others along with us in that. So, if it's just about me all the time, as you said very well on Sunday night, Davis, then the focus is all wrong and we actually get in the way of others being able to worship and connect with God as well. So we need to widen our vision when we come into worship together. We get times during the rest of the week to have our own time with God and what that looks like. But when we come together, we need to be very mindful of others and it's not just about what we like. And I'm with you, Davis. I struggle with some of the keys that I like to sing in a lower register, but sometimes it's way too high for me, and I just have to stop singing and enjoy the music at that stage, But and then I look like I'm not participating. So
or you could just sing a harmony or something.
I've tried that too. That doesn't always work out.
Yeah. I also, so not only did Davis's message, and this was totally unplanned, but did Davis's message tie in partly with what you spoke on Sunday, but it also reminded me, it took me back to Ephesians 4, which we did just a little while ago, where Paul talks about how the church should interact with each other and being humble and gentle, patient with each other, making allowances for each other, making every effort to keep ourselves united in spirit. Then he talks about the different roles of leadership within the church and how the purpose of leadership in the church is to build the church up. Eventually, it says that we can become more and more like Christ, who is the head. And that's exactly what you guys were both saying, that in the end of the day, everything is about putting Jesus first, about putting his will, his plan for us, putting him first over everything. That in fact it's not about what I want, but it's just all about him. So I was really I don't know what the word is, but I really enjoyed the fact that in my mind at least, you guys were speaking, God was speaking through you guys together on Sunday, but I was also able to go, hold on a second, we've just done all this again. Like God is really trying to say something to me at the moment, say something to us at the moment, to clear our own agendas aside and to just let him work through our church at Morley Salvos in the way that he wants.
And it's always hard to actually say it's not about me. Well, it's not hard to say it's not about me, but it's hard to actually live that out. I was interested on Sunday night, Henrik, when you led the prayer session and you said, let's not make this prayer time about us and about our needs and our desires and all that sort of stuff, but let's thank God for who he is. And interestingly, almost all of the prayers, and I'm not having a go at anyone by any, at all, but all the prayers were about thank you for what you've done for me. So it's really hard for us to think outside of that. It's just that human nature, sort of, we from beginning of our lives are the center of our universe, and so it's hard for us to think outside of that and say, well, if it's not about me, how can I change that focus when it's just what I naturally go to in the end anyway. So yeah, I that really spoke to me actually in that prayer time, because I guess I was thinking the same thing. I think, oh yeah, what can I thank God for? And I came up with a few things, and then I thought, oh, hang on a sec, that's about me. And so then I was listening for it from other people as well, and that's sort of seems to be what transpired a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. So we've kind of touched there a little bit about this idea of Sunday worship that both you, Warren, and you, Davis, spoke on Sunday. Davis, your message also took another slant about the base verses that you used to kind of build your sermon upon was John 13:34-35, which was about, and the new commandment I give you, that you love each other, and this is how the world will know that you're my disciples.
Yeah.
So how can you kind of, I want to get eventually to the verse from Corinthians that you also used.
Yeah.
But I liked that you got there that also, like, the way that we treat each other within the church, but then also the way that we reflect God's love, Jesus' love to the world.
Yeah.
That's how the world will know that we're followers of Christ.
Yeah. Well, it's
Perhaps
kind of
a little bit on that.
The whole part, like preaching, I guess, from that is just, I kind of read the verse and just kept expanding on the verse, because so I'm reading the Message version. I've got it here, so it's not wrong. Look at that. That's why I'm married. If you ever need tips on how to get a date in church, you just show that you highlighted your Bible and someone says that's a spiritual man of God. There's a free tip for you. Dating tips is brought to the young adults. Henrik, look at that. So this is the verse that from the Message version. This is Jesus in red. Let me give you a new command. Love one another in the same way I have loved you. You love one another. This is how everyone will recognize that you are my disciples, when they see the love you have for each other. And it's just interesting, that verse. And I spoke about it Sunday night, obviously, but is that Jesus was saying this to Christians. And we often forget that. It's like, oh, everyone should just love everyone. But like, he specifically said this to his disciples, to his followers who have been with him. This is just before he gets crucified.
And they're not just Christians. They're his closest.
Exactly. They're his closest followers.
His students who have been following him for years. Yeah.
And so he can see that this need is, people are going to recognize you for the love you have for each other. And from that, they're going to say, oh, we want to be part of that because of the love you have for each other. And yes, it's important to love our community, but it's saying that the love you have for each other, because Jesus knows that we're going to have issues among Christians, among the church, of different worship styles and stuff that we might not agree with, but it comes down to, we need to love each other so people will see that in us. And then from that, our lives will be filled and full of love, because Jesus is our source. So love like I have loved you. And then I said it comes down to, how did I look when Jesus first loved me? That's what love needs to be. That's how I need to love people. Not with anger, not with Facebook comments that don't matter. Like, I've never been called by Jesus to comment on a Facebook thing that doesn't matter. That's not how Jesus loves someone. We need to love like he first loved us.
Yeah. In the state that I was in when he first.
Exactly.
It's interesting, Davis. I'm going to quote you again, although remembering these are just my notes in the moment. You said something along the lines of, if your love doesn't look like Jesus, it isn't love.
Correct.
And then you also said something like, you've created God in your own image when God hates all the same people you do.
Yep.
They were pretty blunt messages, but also, I think really thought-provoking and challenging to us as well. Like, if the way that we're acting doesn't reflect Jesus, then we're not actually loving as he, we can walk around and profess to be Christians, to be followers and disciples of Jesus. But if we're not loving in a way that reflects his love for us, then it isn't love at all. And then, when we get upset with people, when we just can't handle people, when we just can't stand that one person because of some of our own, whatever it is, selfishness or whatever it is, whatever the root cause of all of that is, God doesn't hate that person, and we're called to love God's family and to love his children, to whatever. So, that was really thought-provoking. How did you kind of come up with those little sayings, or how did you get there?
I saw a version of the, if you created God in your own image one, I saw a version of it and I was like, I didn't agree with how it was written. And I was like, well, how would I agree with it?
Mm.
And then I came to that because with conversations that you have with like non-Christians, and it's like, well, how can God, like, and it's always funny when someone goes, oh, well, the God I believe in. And it's like, well, it's God. We believe in the same God, it's God. And it was written as, I actually can't even remember, but it was written in a way that it almost reversed it. And it was like, well, if you hate people, then you're trying to become God or something. And I was like, well, that's not what I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
It's, you've created God in your own image. And oftentimes we, as Christians, can do that. We can actually say, like, oh, I don't think God will do this. And it's like, well, actually, we don't fully know if, like, and so it's all this like internal battle. And I think it was really personal of going like, oh, I really don't like that person. Maybe God doesn't love them either. And so it's this whole internal thing of, actually, it's not about me, it's about Jesus' love. And I've actually got to use my life, not because of what I'm doing, but because of what he's doing through me to love that person. Yeah. And so it's not about me, it's about Jesus using me, not for my own abilities, not for my own background or whatever, but he's actually just using me because of who he is and what he's done.
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned, the God I believe in, because I came to you before the service on Sunday and I said, I want to show this video, but I'm not sure if it's too harsh or too blunt or whatever. So I showed this short video of a preacher, Voddie Baucham, speaking, and he mentioned that sort of idea that sometimes we like to think that we believe in an all-powerful, God, as long as we're sovereign over him. He's, as long as he fits in and conforms to how I want him to act and how I want him to move. But in fact, we need to change the perspective around it all altogether, that no, Jesus is supreme. Jesus is sovereign over everything, and that we need to live our lives reflecting that sort of point of view. So, yeah. You ended up kind of finishing your sermon, Davis, using 1 Corinthians 13, which you described as being, you said something along the lines of, it's a shame or something that it's been turned into a wedding passage.
Wedding passage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that it was the kind of turned into like the romantic love between a couple. And it is used well in that context as well. But I really liked the fact that you kind of linked it. Well, hold on a second. My job, you said something along the lines of, you've got a job to do. It's not about me, it's about God. The only way for people to see this is for me to use my life to point it back to his love, point it back to his love for me, to love them like Jesus loves me. And so you said something along the lines of, well, if I'm supposed to love like Jesus, what does love look like? What is godly love? What is Jesus' love? And so then you went to the love chapter, 1 Corinthians 13, 4 to 7, 4 to 8, something like that.
4 to the start of 8. Yeah,
yeah. And you read it out. Love is patient, love is kind, all that stuff that we know. And you said, hold on a second. Well, if I'm supposed to love, if Jesus is love, I'm supposed to love like Jesus. Can I insert my name? Can I insert me in my life into that chapter, into that thing? So I'm going to read from the NLT here, but it was something along the lines of, Davis is patient and kind. Davis is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. Davis does not demand his own way. Davis is not irritable and doesn't keep any record of being wronged. Davis does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever truth wins out. Davis never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, endures through every circumstance. You said Davis never fails because love never fails. So I guess Davis and Warren, how do you feel about fitting yourself into that? Maybe Warren, you go first.
Yeah, let Warren go. I'm going to have a drink of coffee.
Yeah, that's a thought that I first heard many years ago from he was Commissioner Tilsley, and it's something that I've often talked about and used, and so the way I have come at that is that you can actually put Jesus in there, so you can, when you've said love, you're describing Jesus and his relationship with other people. And it comes down to me, then it links very closely to the fruit of the Spirit.
Mm.
So you'll see in that list of things that love is, you'll see the fruit of the Spirit reflected very strongly in there. And so we sometimes think that we have to strive to do those things, but actually they're just the outworking of God's Holy Spirit within us. So for me, it becomes not so much a guidebook, but a measuring stick of how I'm doing. How is my relationship with God? He calls me and expects me to love others. That's what you've been talking about, Davis. You know, people will know who you are by the love that you show for each other. And so this is how I know that I'm living those things out, when I can look at that list and go, yep, that is describing me, or, oh, you know what, it's not so much at the moment. So maybe I need to not work on my patience or my kindness or my long suffering or whatever it is, but actually just work on my relationship with God, because that stuff comes automatically. And I think that's where that list is broken down sometimes in the past. That we go, oh yeah, I'm pretty good at the not holding a grudge, but my patience, yeah, you know. And it's not an either or. You have to live out. All of those things should be on display when the Spirit of God is filling our hearts and our lives, and it's overflowing through us. So I love that. I think for me that is the way to interpret that passage, and to use it in a meaningful way for us outside of weddings.
Yeah, it is funny though, because you go to so many. I've been to weddings of like people who aren't Christians, and it gets read out, and I'm like, you haven't given any context, you haven't given anything. Like, so what can we do with that? So, but it was really challenging, and I was really close at one point, and I held it pretty well together, because as you're reading it with your name in it, it's actually a big challenge, because then you're kind of going, how many of these have I actually failed God in? So it gets hard.
Yeah.
You get challenged internally, and you feel bad and stuff.
And like we started this off speaking about kind of corporate church worship and the relationship we have with our fellow Christians and church members and stuff on a Sunday and in church setting. I was really challenged to think to myself, well, how am I always patient with my fellow church members? Am I always loving in this way in the body of Christ in the church? Because I think we often think about, you know, how we need to reflect Jesus to the world and point everyone back to Jesus in our daily lives. But yeah, also so important that I'm trying to love people like he loves, also on a Sunday and also on a Friday night, also on a Thursday night at Bible study, whenever I'm hanging out with my fellow church members as well. The aim is not to think about me, but to think about pointing everyone towards Jesus, and for me to be pointed towards Jesus as well, and not my own wants and desires. So yeah, that was really challenging.
That list is kind of easy to do when it's people that you like, and that you love, but they're not the only ones that we're called to be that way with. You know, it's, as you say, it's with everybody. And that's the real test, that with the difficult people, the unlovable people, you know, how much am I showing those things to the people that are difficult to get along with?
I think like the family of God, the church family, is going to look probably different to the people that you would normally gravitate towards in your social life. A church family is all ages, every different kind of identity group. It's all people coming together for the purpose of loving Jesus and worshiping him and trying to reflect him. So therefore it means that you're going to be surrounded by people that, I'm trying to be careful with how I say this, but sometimes if you look around the church family, you are going to be surrounded by people that you wouldn't necessarily choose to hang out with in your own social time, personal time. And that's a real challenge. I have to love everyone in my church family because Jesus has brought us together. He's the one that breaks down those walls. And the whole purpose is about him and loving him, and showing the world this this kingdom. I think you said something along these lines, Davis, but yeah, like it's that John 13 thing. The world will know that we're his disciples because we love each other despite those differences and all that kind of stuff. So I hope you've had a chance to watch Davis's sermon from Sunday night. It's on our Facebook page and also our Morley Salvation Army YouTube channel. I'll also have a link here for you to watch it as well. But it was very thought-provoking, Davis, as always. You always think slightly differently to me, so it's a really good, refreshing opportunity for me to reassess how I'm thinking about some of those famous verses.
I hope you didn't get in trouble with your dad either after that. So.
Yeah.
He laughed, thankfully, I thought.
So definitely go and have a chance to watch Davis's sermon from Sunday night. But for now, I just wanted to leave you with, just that 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 to 8. This is the love chapter that we're all so familiar with, but I wonder if we could all just use it as a chance to reflect on where we're at with God, but also with the way that we demonstrate his love to people, whether it's in the church or outside of the church. Because Jesus said in John 13, this is how people will know that you're my disciples, the way that you love each other. So this is 1 Corinthians 13, verses 4 to 8. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice in injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. Love never fails. So can you put yourself into that little passage there? And are you loving, am I loving in a way that reflects Jesus' love to the world? Because in reality, the Christian walk, although it is about me, it's not about me, but it's about reflecting Jesus to our world, to the people that we hang out with. I hope you've been challenged and encouraged. Davis, thank you for preparing Sunday night's message. Thank you, Warren, for preparing yours, because they tied in together very nicely. But thanks for joining us together as well. Thanks for joining today, sorry. We hope you guys have a really good rest of your week, and I hope you'll join us next fortnight. We're looking at Ezekiel 37, the passage about the dry bones, and that should be a bit of an exciting one as well. But otherwise, who's preaching? Just some guy, Henrik, someone or other.
Oh,
not sure.
Best looking preacher coming next fortnight. I'm excited. I'm there.
Not sure about him, but anyway. No, we hope you have a great rest of your week, and hope you be blessed. Everyone have a good one. Thanks, Davis. Thanks, Warren. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.